Yeah, thank you, Mr. Rajeev. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to all of you. Uh, okay, I'll start with the pandemic. So, see, 2 months back on 31st May, the government of India brought out the figures. The National Statistical Office brought out the figures, GDP figures, and we came to know that during the year 2020-21, the GDP of the country had, in fact, recorded a negative growth of 7.4%. This is almost entirely because of the restrictions imposed for containing the pandemic, and then all of us were aware that it's not going to do too well in that year. So 7.4% negative growth. Now we are yet to receive the formal figures for the milk production statistics and what has happened to the milk production in the country. But then, if if for us for the cooperative milk procurement is an indicator, and that certainly is an indicator. Cooperative dairies contribute, see, they procure about 10% of the total milk produced in the country, and cooperative milk procurement, if that's any sign, it's quite a welcome sign that the procurement by dairy cooperatives in 2020-21 went up by almost 8%, actually, something like 465 lakh liters per day to 500 lakh liters per day. That's about 8%. So that's amazing, because the milk the GDP shrinks by 7% or 7.5%, and you have a sector, the dairy sector, the cooperative dairy sector, it increases the procurement. That's because of the faithfulness with the cooperatives have stuck to their founding principles. And even in the light of very adverse circumstances, not enough markets, commodity prices crashing, and they were finding it even difficult to procure the milk from the villages, actually, in during the crisis. So in spite of all these few exceptions here, and that's what resulted in the growth. Now that's one part of it. That yes, they did help the farmers and members and non-members, as Mr. Ajay had indicated earlier, and this is what we all have to see today. Now we'll wait for the formal milk production figures also. That I'm sure that will also record a positive growth in spite of the GDP getting into the negative territory. That is fun. But then we also find that milk sale, liquid milk sale, that the other indicator of form of agriculture, that hasn't done too well. In fact, overall at the country level, we find that the total liquid milk sale. I'm not looking at the products. The total liquid milk sale had gone down from something like 370 lakh liters to say something like 360 lakh liters, which is actually a matter of concern. So no, so you're talking about something like 8% growth in milk procurement and negative growth of 3% in milk sale. So except maybe some of the bigger federations, uh, for all the dairy cooperatives in the country, this is a matter of concern. And therefore, I would say that the biggest challenge that would be facing the dairy cooperatives in the immediate future, I'm talking about 2, 3, 4 years, is that how do you make sure that you are able to dispose of all the milk that you procure in the either in the form of liquid milk or in the form of long shelf life milk or products in a manner at a reasonable price, so that you can continue to service the farmers with a good price for this produce, actually. So the first challenge I would say is marketing. So liquid milk and milk products, how do you do it? When I say marketing, it's about improving the distribution, sales promotion, advertising, and so on and so forth. So that's the first challenge. Now, even as I say that the farmer should get a reasonable price, now then the question comes as to what is a reasonable price. Now, a reasonable price for me would mean that the farmer gets paid for the inputs, and he gets to keep some margin for him. See, we are talking about 200 million metric tons of milk production and 80 million farm families who are in varying degrees dependent on milk. So for that, they make a good livelihood out, and we want more and more people to come in, and the livelihoods themselves have to improve. The cost of milk production and containing the cost of milk production, and even in times of inflation, that would be the second biggest challenge. Now, how do you make sure that the farmer gets to produce milk at a price that would make sure that the price he gets for his milk is remunerative? So the cost of milk production has to be sufficiently low so as to justify the price which he's able to earn in the market. Now, NDDB and I'm sure many other cooperatives have taken a lot of initiatives in this area in terms of better breeding practices, improving feed efficiencies, feed conversion efficiencies, and so on and so forth. So this would be the second biggest challenge. So the growth in milk procurement would happen, milk production would happen only if the farmer finds that he's able to make a living out of it. Now, reducing the cost of milk production would mean number one, bringing in technology, the right technologies, and making sure that we have enough in the farm level. That institutions like NCCT and its training institutes, they'll have to, along with the cooperatives and institutions like IRMA and NDDB, play a very critical role in making sure that the dissemination of technology happens and the cost of milk production for the average farmer in the country remains at a level that is remunerative. And the third, for the challenge I would say is making sure that adequate investments happen in the areas of procurement, processing, and distribution of products in the sale. So by and large, the largest investments would need to be made in the area of milk processing. And how does that happen? So the government of India through DIDF and NDDB through its own schemes provides capital at reasonable cost for the dairy cooperatives to invest, and we're finding a lot of interest in that. Now, post-COVID, post the pandemic period, we expect a lot of people to also invest in facilities for, say, powder plants and butter making units, so that they can conserve. So many of the cooperatives strictly viable. They think important to make this investment so that on a rainy day when there's a surge in milk procurement, they can still handle it. Actually, many of even the smaller federations want to do that. Now, so these are the three important challenges I would see. And now I'll just come to what are the opportunities that are being thrown up in the recent past. One is certainly that post-pandemic and even otherwise. So we expect the economy to pick up in the next 18 to 24 months, and we expect the trend of increasing disposable incomes to grow at a rate that would justify more and more people wanting to shift from carbohydrate-based foods to protein-based foods. That's where and in a large population, milk would be the first choice for high quality protein. So that's one. Second is changing food preferences, packed, safe, ready to eat foods. That's another opportunity. Products like curd, paneer, these are all value-added products which can bring in a better price to the farmers. And what is then the way forward? How do we see it? See, as the dairy board sees it, we would like the cooperative sector to continue to maintain the dominant position in the them to cut. So today, if you're procuring 10% of the total, it not go up to 11, 12. What that you make sure that investments have cooperative sector. The Feds, in fact, making investments at a faster pace than the cooperatives. So how do you make sure that you get to make those investments? You get to make sure that the farmer is able to produce milk at a reasonably good price, and the cooperatives are able to procure all of that. Now, I would see that one is, we need to bring in technology. Institutions like the dairy board would do that, but then disseminating technology, how do you make sure that the technology reaches the farmers? So that's where all the and all the stakeholders who are there here today, they'll all have to work together and make sure that the cooperatives continue to maintain their dominant position and strengthen that. Now I look forward to hearing from the other speakers, and thank you for a very patient listening.